begin, you're going to start by making a slip knot. Then chain up 3, like so. Now we're going to slip stitch into the very first chain that we made. Once you've done that, chain up 3. This is going to be our starting chain. Then yarn over, prepare for a double crochet stitch. So now you're going to use your hand to kind of separate both sides together so you'd see this tiny hole in here. So that's where we're going to be working. Just insert your hook into this ring that you formed and make a double crochet like so. Now make additional 1 double crochet. So you should have a total of 3 double crochets. Remember, these 3 chains count as a double crochet. So after you've done that, you're going to go ahead and chain 2, and in that same chain space, which is here, remember to hide this as you work like so. Go in with 3 double crochets. So the first round of this granny square is similar to us just making a normal granny square. So chain 2, in that same chain space, go in with 3 double crochets like so. So now chain 2, go into here with 3 double crochets. So chain 2 and into here slip stitch. So normally if I was to make this for myself, I would normally chain 2 instead of 3 because I found out that it makes the work tighter, like it makes the middle here tighter for me. So but for the purpose of this tutorial, I decided to chain 3 so it's easy to kind of demonstrate how this works, because normally some people would chain 4, some people would chain 3, or I'd prefer to chain 2. If you're a pro and you don't like this tiny hole in the middle, you can just chain 2, slip stitch into the first stitch and walk into the space in it. But if you're just a beginner, stick to chain 3 or stick to chain 4. Always make sure that you slip stitch into the first stitch before you start working in the round. Now this is the end of our row 1 for our granny square. Now let's make row 2. For row 2, you're going to chain 1 like so, then skip these 2 double crochets that you have here, and we'll be working into the chain space. Chain space is our 2 chains that we made in the previous row. So everywhere you see these 2 chains, we'll consider it as our chain space. So in the next chain space, we're going to be making 8 double crochets. So now I have a total of 8 double crochets. So once you've done your 8 double crochets, you're going to chain 1 and place a single crochet in the very next chain space. So you're going to skip these 3 double crochet clusters and place a single crochet here. Then chain 1. So now we'll be placing 2 single crochets in the middle of this 3 double crochet clusters. So we're going to skip here and place 2 single crochets in here, like so. So once you've done that, chain 1. I would advise that if you're a beginner, you should place a stitch marker in this chain 1, because this is where we're going to start our next row. But if you're a pro, you can just eyeball it like I would. So after you've chained 1, go into the same stitch with 2 single crochets. So now, once you place your work like this, you see that we've formed one side of our heart shape. Now, chain 1, skip this double crochet stitch, and in this chain space, going with a single crochet. Chain 1, skip the 3 double crochet clusters and place 8 double crochets in this chain space. So I've done a total of 8 double crochets. Chain 1. So slip stitch into the middle of this double crochet cluster. So chain 1 and cut. So I'm just going to cut this, then pull through like this. So now we're done with the heart part of this granny square. We're now going to proceed and make the square part. Now remember I told you guys when we did the chain 1 here before making the single crochet that you should place a stitch marker on the chain 1. So now we're going to start from that chain 1 space. If you didn't place a stitch marker, you can just spread out your work like this and look for the stitch that's protruding this way. So this is mine over here. Now to create our square, we're going to insert our hook in the chain 1 space, but note we'll be inserting our hook in the back loop only. So the back loop is going to be the side that's not facing you directly. I'm sitting down like this, so this is my back loop, not this side. Not this side, but this side. So now insert your hook into the back loop of your chain 1 space that you did earlier. Now going with your second shade of yarn, I'm making use of white, yarn over, pull through, then chain 1 to secure the yarn. So what I like to do is to carry this extra yarn along and try and hide it as I walk. In the next stitch, you're going to go in to the back loop only. Every stitch we're going to work around this side. We'll be working on the back loop only. So now for the next stitch, going with a single crochet in the back loop only. In the next, we're going in with a half double crochet. In the next, going with a double crochet. Then going with a treble crochet. Like so. If you don't know how to make these stitches, try and check my description on how to make these stitches at the beginning of the video. So after you've made this, you're going to chain 2. This is going to be our first corner. In the next stitch, which is like the chain 1 that we did here, we're going to go in with a double crochet. Then in the next stitch, going with a half double crochet. As you can see, I'm still carrying this loose the end to hide it. Then in the next 4 stitches, we're going to be going in with 4 single crochets. So I've made 4 single crochets in each of the stitches. So chain 2. Now we're going to repeat and make 4 single crochets in each of the remaining stitches. So now I have made my 4 single crochets. You would notice that you do not have any stitch remaining on this side. The next step is to create a half double crochet in the very same stitch that you slip stitched earlier on. So that's in the middle of this 3 double crochet cluster. And after you've done this, we're going to proceed and make 4 single crochets in each stitch. 1, 2, and I've done a total of 4 single crochets in each stitch. That's 1 in each stitch. Chain 2. Now in the next, going with a single crochet. Now make 3 single crochets extra, 1 in each stitch. You should have a total of 4 single crochets after your chain 2 space, like I have. Now make a half double crochet in the next stitch. And in the next, a double crochet. Then chain 2, make a treble crochet in the next stitch. Then a double crochet in the next stitch. A half double crochet in the next stitch. Then now we're now back to that chain 1 space that we started our work from. So we're going to be placing a single crochet in there. Now slip stitch into this first single crochet stitch that you have here. And that's the end of row 2. For row 3, you're going to chain 3, and this counts as our first double crochet. Then in that very same stitch, go in with 2 double crochets. That will be our first 3 double crochet cluster. And after you've done this, chain 1. So you're going to skip all of these stitches here. That's a total of 3 stitches, and in this chain space we'll be placing 3 double crochets. Now we are going to be creating another 3 double crochet cluster. chain 2 like so, then 3 double crochet cluster again in the same chain space. You're going to chain 1 and skip 3 stitches, that is 1, 2 and 3. Now place a double crochet in the next stitch, that's the 4th stitch from the hook. So now we'll be making 2 extra double crochets to make it 3 double crochets cluster. Chain 1. Now we're going to be placing 3 double crochets in the next chain 2 space that we have here. Chain 2. We are kind of repeating what we did here. This is going to be our corner stitch. Now going with 3 double crochets again in that very same chain space. Once you've done that, chain 1. We're going to skip this 4 single crochets here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. And place 3 double crochets on top of this half double crochet stitch that we did in the previous row, like so. Then chain 1. Now we're going to look for the 2 chain space from the previous row and make our corner stitch. That is 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. So I've done my first 3 double crochets. I'm going to chain 2 and make the second one. So 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. Now chain 1. Since you're working down, you're going to skip 2 stitches. 1. Always remember to drag your cluster stitch so you can see the first stitch. So 1, 2, and place a 3 double crochet cluster stitch in here. Chain 1 after you're done with that, and in the next chain 2 space we'll go in with 3 double crochets. So always note that in every chain 2 space we place in 3 double crochet, chain 2 and 3 double crochet. So I'm done with mine. So chain 1 and slip stitch into the 3rd chain of our starting chain. And this is how it looks like. So this is the end of row 2. For row 3, you're going to slip stitch in each of the stitches till you get to this chain 1 space. So make a slip stitch. We've already slip stitch into the first stitch here. Now we'll be making a slip stitch into the second, double crochet, then into the 3rd double crochet. Now we have the chain space, so slip stitch into here and make 3 chains. This will count as your first double crochet stitch. Now yarn over and make 2 double crochets in the very same chain space. So chain 1. So you're going to skip this and make 3 double crochets in this chain space. So since we are in the chain 2 space, remember we're going to be making 3 double crochets, chain 2, then 3 double crochets in that space. So after you've done that, chain 1, and in the next chain space you're going to skip this 3 double crochet cluster and place 3 double crochets in the next chain space. Then chain 1, skip this 3 double crochet cluster and place 3 double crochets in the next chain space. Chain 1. Now we are the corner stitch again. We're going to be placing 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. So once you're done with that, you're going to chain 1 and in the next chain space place 3 double crochets in it. So now you're going to repeat this pattern, that is 3 double crochets in each of the 1 chain space and 3 double crochets, 2 chains, 3 double crochets in the 2 chain space. And I'll see you guys when I'm done with mine. So I've worked my way to the end. I'm now going to make a slip stitch in the 3rd chain of my starting chain. Chain 1 and cut. Mind you, if you're making this for a big project, you can still continue and repeat the same pattern that you made for the last row till you get your desired length and measurement. So pull out and tighten, and that's the end for our very first heart granny square. I hope you enjoyed making this.